Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is Tuesday, is it? Wednesday. Hope you all are doing really well. We're going to sit down and talk about the latest Everton news and transfer rumours today, including news that James Tarkowski, Burnley centre-back, is set to sign for Everton, according to a number of very reliable sources. The 29-year-old centre-back allegedly or apparently had his medical over the last 24 hours or so and has agreed personal terms with the Toffees and looks set to be Frank Lampard's first signing of this summer. Farhad Moshiri has also released a statement addressing Evertonians, talking about the last season, how it wasn't good enough, also talking about some plans for the future with obviously everybody at the football club. So we're going to go through all of that, and we'll touch on a couple of other rumours as well. There's been rumours linking Yerry Mina with a move away from the football club, and there's been a couple of other rumours surrounding various players being linked with moves to Everton. As I've said before, we very much are in silly season at the moment, and I made a point last summer, of sitting down basically every day and talking about a different transfer rumour every single day. And, you know, I've been looking at the transfer rumours recently, and other than this James Tarkowski one, which obviously has got, you know, a lot of sort of weight to it, other than that, there's not really been anything whatsoever. Yes, we've been linked with about 452,000 different players, but other than James Tarkowski, as I said, none of them have had any real weight to them whatsoever, and some of them are just outright laughable. You know, they're that unrealistic. So I haven't really sat down and done a video every single day on them, and rather just waited for them to collect and waited for, you know, a big bit of news or a significant bit of news, and then, you know, thought we'll sit down and do the video. Then we still have got to do the season review. I've had a bit of a manic week this week, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, with work. I'm off to see Queen in London tomorrow, so I've got a manic day tomorrow as well, but the season review will be coming as soon as possible, really. I'm going to try and do it on Saturday, so it's a weekend, we can all sit down, we can get it out the way, and then we can forget about that absolute treacherous season that we've all just had to, you know, put ourselves through as Evertonians. We obviously done the seasonal play ratings a couple of days ago as well. Massive thank you for all of the support on that video. I actually had a number of comments on that video saying that the Mighty Blues should get a 10 out of 10 for last season because of the content and all of that sort of stuff. So thank you all so much for the support on that. It was a it was a difficult season for all of us, to say the least, wasn't it? You know, not only watching Everton, but we all know as Evertonians, Everton Football Club isn't just something that you pick up on a weekend and you go the game or you watch on the telly and then you can put down for the rest of the week. Everton Football Club is something that is on our minds pretty much for every hour of the day that we are awake. And for the last 4, 5, 6 months, when it's been really difficult and when there's been genuine fear and worry and anxiety about the situation and whether or not we'd be a Premier League club, you know, in the following season, I feel like there's not been a second of any of our lives really, of any of our lives where we haven't thought about Everton and the future and what the future holds and whether or not we will get relegated or whether or not we'd stay in the Premier League. I feel like it's constantly being on our minds, and you know, that was what made that Crystal Palace game so special, is because that was the end of all of that, the end of all of that worry, the end of all of that anxiety, the end of all of that stress. So it's been quite an enjoyable last couple of weeks or so, not having to think about Everton and specifically not having to stress about what we all spent the last 3-4 months stressing about, because, you know, as I said, Everton Football Club isn't something that we just pick up on a weekend when we decide to. It's not something that you know, we turn up to on a Saturday to be entertained. Frank Lampard said this not so long ago. He said, when you're managing and playing at clubs like Chelsea and Manchester City, you'd almost feel like you're making someone's day, whereas at Everton, this is their lives, and this is exactly it, isn't it? It's not like we just sit there on a weekend and go, oh, the footy's on today, we'll get a bit of entertainment, and then, you know, we won't bother for another week. Every single day, we live, breathe and bleed this football club, and that's why it's been so difficult recently. But we are in the summer now. We have survived. We can look forward to another season in the Premier League, and we can look forward to a whole load of nonsense transfer rumours surrounding players that will never ever play for Everton, but will be linked with Everton because journalists have got to I've got to make some form of story up in order to get them through their day at work, I suppose. Ned has become a member of the channel. Thank you so much, Ned. I knew you were going to do it anyway because you've just texted me, but thank you so much, my mate. I really do appreciate that. But let's talk about a player who has been linked with Everton and it isn't a nonsense transfer rumour. There's actually not just some weight to this, but it actually looks like it's going to happen, and that is James Tarkowski. Now, we spoke briefly about James Tarkowski about a week ago when we spoke about Richarlison's future, and we spoke about how, he'd been linked with a move to Everton, but it wasn't, it was more of a case of Everton are interested in him. There's a number of Premier League clubs interested in him. I think the rumours at that time were that Everton had offered him a contract on around about £90,000 a week. He's obviously coming in for a free because he's out of contract at Burnley. But it was rumours in not many very reliable, as you would say, sources commenting on it. It was just a couple of journalists or publications here and there saying that Everton had shown an interest, so we didn't really talk about it, and then it went quiet for about a week or so, didn't it? Over the last week or so we haven't really heard anything, and this has become a little bit typical, hasn't it, of Everton in recent years. As typically when we've signed a player over the last couple of years or so, there's been a sort of a big media push with said player. There's been a lot of rumours, and then all of a sudden it goes quiet for about a week or so. You don't really hear anything, and then it's, Everton have agreed the deal and are set to sign said player, and then it all picks up again. And this seemingly has happened with James Tarkowski as well. The latest coming from Fabrizio Romano today. Obviously, a lot of people will class Fabrizio as one of the most reliable sources for transfer news on the planet. He said Everton are set to sign English centre-back James Tarkowski on a free. The verbal agreement on personal terms has been reached. Frank Lampard wanted Tarkowski, now waiting for paperwork to be complete. I believe El Bobble said something similar yesterday as well. Fabrizio Romano said that today. There was other rumours stating that James Tarkowski had actually had offers from other Premier League clubs, but chose Everton over those clubs. Now, whether that was because Everton were willing to offer him significantly more than said other Premier League clubs, I don't know. But it's seeming that James Tarkowski had options and certainly chose Everton over a number of options. Adam Crafton, who works for The Athletic, again, another source that you would deem pretty reliable when it comes to transfer news. Adam said this morning that James Tarkowski will undergo his Everton medical today before signing for the club. He has agreed a deal up to 4 years. Interesting that it says up to 4 years and not necessarily a 4-year deal. Maybe that's a case of 2 years with a possible extension of 2 years if the club are happy, or 3 years with a possible extension of a year. Bearing in mind he is 29 years old, which seems like a bit of a sort of a stay away from age, if you like. But in regards to a centre back, it's not actually that bad. 29. Don't get me wrong, it's certainly not ideal. And obviously, we've identified as a fan base that Everton really need to be targeting younger players, players with that hunger and that desire to improve, and players that are going to come in and be a part of this team and this football club for years to come. And whilst James Tarkowski mightn't be here as long as some of the players of the ages we'd be looking to target, i.e. 24, 25, 26, around there, for a centre-back 29, you can still get 5-6 good years out of him. You look at the likes of Thiago Silva at Chelsea, who still is one of the best centre-backs on the planet, without a shadow of a doubt. Won the Champions League, obviously, the year before last. He's 37 years old. When they won the Champions League, he was 36 years old, and he was one of the best defenders in the competition. So, you compare that to James Tarkowski of 29, and it's not an awful age whatsoever for the centre-back. 90-Min Football also reported earlier today that Everton have agreed terms with James Tarkowski, who is set to have his Everton medical this week. The defender was top of Lampard's wish list. Everton's offer was far higher than other offers he got. So, again, makes sense. Matt Law of the Daily Telegraph reported yesterday that Everton are expected to sign James Tarkowski on a free transfer. So, pardon me. So, it looks like the James Tarkowski deal is all but, I don't want to say done, because, this is Everton Football Club, and we know that anything can happen with Everton Football Club, but it seems like, barring a monumental fuck-up, which, again, isn't out of the realms of possibility, James Tarkowski will become an Everton player over the next week or so, I would assume. Listen, I know there was reports saying he was going to have his medical today, but I'm sure he's still on a holiday with his family, and if he's not on a holiday with his family, he obviously won't be due in with Everton until the rest of the players are due in, which I think is maybe late June, early July. So, it mightn't be officially announced as quick as we would like it to be, but it seems like there won't be much of an issue getting this one over the line. Listen, I'm I'm happy with the deal. I'm happy with it. I'm not as over the moon as I know some people are, and I'm not by any sense of the imagination having a go at anybody for being over the moon with this deal, or saying that they're wrong, or saying that they shouldn't be, because I wouldn't do that. The way I look at it is, I think James Tarkowski is significantly better than Michael Keane. I think he's significantly better than Mason Holgate. I think he's probably at this point better than Ben Godfrey, but I don't think he's better than Yerry Mina. And it's the Yerry Mina situation that is sort of not turning me head with this deal, but making me sort of think it's a good deal and I'm happy with it. 29 years old, as I said, relatively decent age for a centre-back, free transfer. So, he cost us not a penny. I know his wages, when the deal is broken down, and if it doesn't work out, people will be saying, oh, he's, we spend too much on him wage-wise. But he's a leader. He's a big physical centre half. He's a commander. He's certainly got more of a as I said, a leadership mentality and personality than the other centre backs at the football club. And the reality of the situation is that we can't rely on Yerry Mina, whether we like him or not. And I absolutely love Yerry Mina. I think he's amazing. I think he's an amazing centre-back. I think his personality is amazing. I think his just persona is amazing. I think the aura that he holds around the dressing room is amazing. But he's unreliable. I think he started 11 games last season. Now, you can't have a centre-back that you need to rely on because of the fact that the other centre-backs at the football club aren't particularly great, and that centre-back that you're relying on having as many injury issues as Yerry Mina does. Now, the reason I mention Yerry Mina is because I look at James Tarkowski and I think, well, okay, if we're going to bring James Tarkowski, let's just say, for argument's sake, we don't bring in another centre-back this summer. Let's say the club and Frank Lampard and Kevin Thelwell look at it and they go, well, okay, we've brought James Tarkowski in. That's it. We don't need another centre-back. It's not like every other position on the pitch is sorted. We need a centre-back. We need a creative midfielder. We need a mobile, quick midfielder. To do the hard work in the middle. We might need another striker depending on what happens with Dominic Calvert-Lewin or Richarlison. We potentially need another winger. So there's various positions at on the pitch that we need to address. And centre back is one of them, but I can't see Everton going out and buying a James Tarkowski and then a centre-back that we would deem better than him. We might go and bring in a young player on loan, or maybe another experienced player to fill a space, but I don't think we'll then go and spend 15-20 million on another centre-back. So that being said, that would obviously lead us to believe James Tarkowski is the centre-back signing we make this summer. And as I said, I'm happy with that. What I'm not disappointed with, but I suppose a little bit pessimistic about, is I don't think he's as good of a defender as Yerry Mina. And I don't think he's as sort of explosive and as commanding and as big of a presence on the pitch as Yerry Mina. Now, you might say not many are, Cam. Not many defenders are, and that's right. There's not many defenders on this planet that can do what Yerry Mina does and do it consistently over 38 games. Hence why Yerry Mina isn't playing for a top football club. If Yerry Mina was had an injury record where he played even 30, 32 games a season, he wouldn't be at Everton. He'd be at one of the best football clubs in the world, probably still Barcelona, because he's that good of a defender. So I effectively look at this as James Tarkowski replacing Yerry Mina, because a decision needs to be made on Yerry Mina this summer. Massive thank you, Jason, by the way, for becoming a member of the channel. Really do appreciate it. A decision needs to be made on Yerry Mina this summer. He's out of contract next summer, I believe. So the club need to either decide to give him a new deal or sell him. Now, judging by the fact we've brought James Tarkowski in, I don't think we're likely to sell Michael Keane and Mason Holgate. One of them may go. Ben Godfrey, I think we can all assume will stay. It is the direct comparison between Tarkowski and Yerry Mina, isn't it? It is, and as I said, Tarkowski comes in. If Mina leaves, is it Tarkowski and Godfrey as our centre-back pairing? Is that good enough? I don't know. Only time will tell. But on James Tarkowski himself, again, I think he's a commander. I think he's definitely a leader. He'll bring leadership and he'll bring consistency as well. We're talking about a player who's played, I think, the least games he's played over the last 4 Premier League seasons has been 34, I think, or maybe even 35 out of 38. So over the last 4 Premier League seasons, he's played 35 games or more just in the league. So you're talking about a player who's uber consistent here. And I know you could say, well, it's the same for Michael Keane, but he's a much better defender than Michael Keane. He's much more commanding. He's got, his leadership is obviously there to be seen. He's physical on the pitch as well. He's not afraid to throw a challenge in, as we seen at Goodison Park earlier on this season with his challenge on Richarlison. So he definitely improves Everton. Is he as good as Yerry Mina? I don't think he is. But as Ned says, and as I've said a couple of times as well, let's be honest here. Everton aren't going to be able to bring in a defender that is as good or better than Yerry Mina without the injury problems Yerry Mina has got, because we're not in that position to. If Yerry Mina hadn't had his injury issues, he wouldn't be at Everton. And if he was at Everton, he'd be our captain and he'd be our most important player. So I suppose you have to look at it that way. I know I've seen a couple of people mention James Tarkowski and errors leading to goals and stuff like that, and I understand that. And listen, it's mad, because typically you'd sit there and you go, yeah, but he plays in a Burnley team, and Burnley is shite. They concede loads of goals. It'll be different when he's at Everton. But when you're looking at Burnley last season and people are saying, well, he made loads of errors, leading to goals, you've got to make that direct comparison to Everton, because Everton and Burnley had a very similar season and were in very similar positions. Come the end of the season, I know Burnley ended up getting relegated, but there wasn't an awful lot in it whatsoever, as we all know. So it's not like you can say, yeah, but he was playing at Burnley then, and Burnley is shite. He's going to be playing at Everton now, and at the moment, Everton is shite. So, there's certainly improvements to be made, and he's certainly not the perfect centre-back, but I think to bring in a 29-year-old leader who's physical, not afraid to throw a challenge in, Premier League experience, consistency in regards to fitness and games that played. He's reliable. He'd be able to be relied on. And to bring him in for not a penny, I think is a good, smart bit of business by Kevin Thelwell and Everton. Because the reality of the situation is that there's other areas on this pitch that we will need to spend and invest heavily in. And some people would say, well, we should have spent and invested heavily in a centre-back. Maybe, but if James Tarkowski's out there and he can come in and do the job that Frank Lampard wants him to do, and he's on a free, albeit his wages is pretty, then we don't particularly need to spend heavy on a centre back, do we? Especially considering, for me, we still need a creative and listen, we mightn't sign all of these players in one transfer window. We mightn't address all of these positions in one transfer window, because it's not easy. It really, really isn't easy. I was listening to Neville Southall when in the View from the Bullens night last Friday, which was great, by the way. And Neville said you shouldn't bring any more than 3 players in a transfer window, because any more you bring in, you just disturb the whole sort of the atmosphere of the dressing room, and they all struggle to settle in, and it just doesn't have a positive impact. And we've seen that firsthand ourselves in summers gone. But unfortunately for Everton, we need to bring in a centre-back, which we've already addressed by the looks of things, with James Tarkowski, who looks set to join the club. As creative midfielder, there's been rumours about Christian Eriksen, etc., who, again, I wouldn't be particularly against. His wage at Brentford is sickening, but he's an unbelievable footballer. He showed that at Goodison Park a couple of weeks ago. He's a fantastic, fantastic footballer. I think we need another sort of mobile, physical, strong, quick, athletic centre midfielder on top of the creative midfielder. If you can get a creative midfielder that is all of that as well, then perfect. But I think you more than likely need 2 midfielders. And then that's without losing Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, or Jordan Pickford. And now I don't think we'll lose the 3 of them. We could very well lose 1 of the 3, and we may even lose 2 of the 3. Depending on what bids come in and where those players' heads are at come the next couple of weeks or so when they return from their holidays. So you're talking about a centre-back, 2 centre midfielders before we've even addressed potential players leaving the club. And if we were to lose Richarlison then or Dominic Calvert-Lewin, then we would absolutely need to go out and buy a goal scorer, because we don't score enough goals. I was having this conversation with Matty yesterday. How many goals did our midfield score this season? So let's disregard the Iwobi, and he only got what, 2? 1, 2. Takore got, I think, 3, maybe 4. Alan didn't get 1. Gomez didn't get 1. Davis got 1. Delph didn't get 1. Who else plays in that midfield? Van der Beek got 1 when he come in on loan. Dele Alli didn't get 1. You're talking 6, 7 midfielders there, and 4 goals between them. You should have 2 centre midfielders that are hitting 6, 7 each. And even when you had Iwobi in there, he only got a couple. So all of our goals pretty much last season, the goals we scored come from Andros Townsend and Damari Gray, both having seasons that were unexpected. Nobody expected Townsend to come in and score the amount of goals that he did. And he still wasn't great last season, but he had his best season in a while. And nobody expected Damari Gray to come in and hit the ground running as quick as he did. And then he tailed off towards the end of the season. So if Damari Gray wouldn't have had the start that he had, and Andros Townsend wouldn't have had the start that he had, we would have been relegated and we would be playing Championship football next season. Richarlison didn't have a great goal scoring season, but everything else was brilliant. Work rate, desire, commitment, involvement in other goals, etc. And Tom obviously spent the majority of the season out injured. So if we're to lose one of that, I find it. I don't find it funny, but I think it's interesting the way people say, "Oh yeah, but we if you lose Richie or Dom, you just go out and you just replace them, or it's not the end of the world and this, that, and the other." We don't score goals from other sides of the pitch. How many goals did our centre back score last season between them? Maybe 4. Okay, that's probably maybe not too bad. Right back, Seamus Coleman didn't get 1. Michalenko got 1. Come in halfway through the season. Not going to blame him for it. Luca Dean didn't get 1 when he was here. Midfielders we've just established got 4 between 6 or 7 of them. 5 between 6 or 7 of them. We can't afford to lose Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison and not replace those goals. It's as simple as that. It is absolutely as simple as that. Who was our highest goal scorer last season, by the way? I'm pretty sure it was Andros Townsend, and he spent 3 months of the season out injured. And he spent a month before that absolutely shite. And he was our leading goal scorer last season. We simply can't afford to lose that goal scorer up front and not replace them. It's as simple as that. And that's, as I said, that's a problem we'll come to dependent on what the future of Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison is. That's before we've even, that's after we've needed to address 2 centre midfielders, a centre back, and a couple of other positions on the pitch that we need to address. So James Tarkowski on a free transfer for the centre back is a good bit of business, I think. 29 years old. Coleman scored against Leeds, did he? Oh yeah, he did. He scored against Leeds. Got 1 against Leeds at home, didn't he? Yeah, you're right. Sorry, my mistake. He got 1. Yeah, again, a good bit of business for me. 29 years old, leadership. He'll definitely start week in, week out. Hopefully he can go in and be the dominant, the primary, the number 1. He can be the number 1 centre-back. And then the others depend on, hopefully we get a solid partnership there, whether it be him and Keane, whether it be Tarkowski and Godfrey, whether it be Holgate, Mina if he can stay fit, whoever it may be. But one thing we will know is James Tarkowski will be the number 1, because I think that's a big problem we've had recently as well, is you couldn't tell me who our number 1 centre-back is. You couldn't. You could say, well, when everyone's fit, it's Yerry Mina, but Yerry Mina's never fit. Some weeks it might be Michael Keane because he might be in good form. Other weeks it's definitely not Michael Keane. Some weeks it might be Mason Holgate. Other weeks it's definitely not Mason Holgate. Same with Ben Godfrey. So that's another big problem. We've got no consistency at the back. We haven't got a centre-back that you look at and you go, right, he'll be in there. He will 100% be in there. Whoever plays next to him is up for debate, but he'll definitely be in there. And I think that's what we'll get with James Tarkowski. And yeah, as I said, I think it's a smart bit of business. I think it's a good bit of business. I think it's a good deal coming in on a free. Yes, his wages will be, I'm sure, a point to discuss, but it looks like it's all set. As I said, this is coming from Fabrizio Romano, The Athletic, various different sources reporting that James Tarkowski looks set to sign for Everton. Fabrizio Romano stating that Everton are set to sign English centre-back James Tarkowski on a free. The verbal agreement on personal terms has been reached. Frank Lampard wanted Tarkowski, now waiting for paperwork to be completed. And as I said, obviously it'll be subject to all of the media stuff and taking his photograph and all of that sort of stuff, and this will be a process that I'm not going to say will drag on, but bearing in mind that the season's not long finished, again, other clubs announce deals when the deal has been agreed and when personal terms have been agreed, and then all of the media stuff they just sort of do in the background, and then the player turns up for pre-season. Everton don't really announce it until every single thing is done. So one thing I would say is if this goes quiet for another couple of days, don't panic or stress about it, because by the looks of things, it looks like this one is settled. So, yeah, interesting. Let me know your thoughts on James Tarkowski. We'll be getting in the live comments. 123 people watching, which is just unbelievable. If you could hit that like button, it would mean a massive, massive amount to me. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. That would mean a great deal to me as well. We will dive in the live comments very, very shortly. Speaking of Yerry Mina, there's been a couple of rumours over the last 2 days or so regarding Yerry Mina. Bearing in mind they've come from the Italian press, which, if you believe everything the Italian press were to say, then I think Adrian Rabiot plays for Everton. I think Sami Khedira plays for Everton. Basically, there was a lot of transfer rumours coming from some of the sources I'm about to mention last summer, and none of them had any substance whatsoever. So take everything you're about to hear with ridiculous amount of salt, shall we say. But according to Tuzo Mercato, and this was cited via Sport Witness, Yerry Mina has been officially put on the transfer market this summer. Everton are asking for a €15 million price for the defender, but the fee could go lower due to his contract expiring next year. I thought that was extremely interesting. According to Colombia Detail Zero, French side Marseille are interested in Yerry Mina and are prepared to spend £20 million on the Colombian defender. So, a couple of transfer rumours regarding Yerry Mina there. As I said, one coming from a Colombian newspaper and another coming from Italy. So, a couple of news about rumours about Paul Joyce stating about James Tarkowski as well, and apparently John Joe Kenny being offered a new 3-year deal, which is just baffling. But anyway, Yerry Mina. Again, as I said, I love Yerry Mina. I absolutely love Yerry Mina. I think it will be devastating the day that he leaves Everton, because I think we're all under the impression, and correct me if I'm wrong here, by the way, but I feel like we're all under the impression that Yerry Mina, had he not have the injury issues that he's got, it wouldn't even be a conversation about him leaving Everton Football Club or selling Yerry Mina or his contract expiring. It wouldn't even be in the discussion. He'd just be given a new deal if he wanted it, and it would be in a similar conversation as to what we're in about Jordan Pickford and Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. It wouldn't be, should we put Yerry Mina up for sale? It'd be, we're going to do well to keep Yerry Mina this summer because he's brilliant. So it is really, really disappointing because, as I said, he's a fantastic, fantastic defender. When he's on the pitch, he's certainly our best defender, at the football club. His personality is unbelievable, is fantastic. His leadership, his desire, his commitment, just everything about Yerry Mina is perfect, other than his injury record. And that ultimately is what lets him down, and that ultimately is what it will be the deciding factor between whether or not he's given a new contract or allowed to leave. This is the summer that a decision needs to be made on Yerry Mina. It's as simple as that. He's out of contract next summer, so we cannot let this drag on any longer. We let it drag on any longer, he's free to talk to clubs in January. He walks for nothing. Now, the rumours there are stating that we could receive up between 15 and 20 million for him. I think if we were to receive, let's just say, pluck a number out of the air, let's say we were to receive an £80 million bid for Yerry Mina, I think Everton would be silly to not sell him for that money. Is Yerry Mina worth more than £80 million player £80 million as a footballer? Absolutely. But given his contractual situation, and given the fact that he made 11 starts last season or something like that, which is not good enough whatsoever, and given Everton's financial situation, I don't think we'd be able to turn that sort of money down for Yerry Mina, especially if the decision is being made to not give him a new contract. And what you also have to think about as well with the Mina situation is his wage as well. It's not like he's on 20-30 grand a week. Yerry Mina is on a considerable amount of money. So if he is to sign a new deal at this football club, his wage will likely increase, if not stay the same. And that is another massive financial decision, to offer a player a new contract on over £100,000 a week when we've all established he's not very reliable. So it's sad. Ultimately, it is sad. Do I think there's anything in these two rumours that we've just read? No, not really. Because I look at the sources, and I always say this when we do transfer videos. I'm not one that sits here and goes, this source is reliable, that source isn't reliable, this source is this source is that. I just don't do that because I'm not really into it, because who am I to say that one paper is more reliable than the other or whatever. But one thing I will say is that the sources, certainly one of the sources that we've just mentioned, talk absolute shite. So I don't think that these rumours are particularly filled with truth. However, I do think that there's a little bit of truth, or I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of truth behind Yerry Mina being allowed to leave Everton this summer. And as disappointing as that is, and it is disappointing, and it's frustrating because it shouldn't really be like that. Because, if he had a better injury record, it wouldn't be like that. It is what it is, I suppose, and there's not much we can do about it. Is it, as I said, if we can bring in James Tarkowski and he can be the sort of alpha centre-back, okay, he mightn't be as good of a centre-back as Yerry Mina, but, as we've established, there's not many out there that are as good as Yerry Mina without the injury record Yerry Mina has got. That would come to Everton Football Club in the position that we're in, and that's just the reality of the situation. But it will be disappointing with the dailies, because I think when we talk about Yerry Mina, you're not only losing how good of a footballer he is and how good of a defender he is, and we've all established that he's a fantastic defender. You're not only losing that, you're losing his personality, you're losing his leadership, you're losing his aura, you're losing his effect on the dressing room. And some people might say, "Oh, Cam, you're talking nonsense, that means nothing," but it does. It goes a long way. I can guarantee if I or Semi or anybody, Ned, anybody walked in to USM, it's not called USM, I need to stop saying that, it's just on the tip of my tongue all the time. Any of us walked into Finch Farm and sat down with Frank Lampard and this Everton team and asked them individually how they felt about Yerry Mina, I don't think there'd be a single person at that football club that would say a bad word about him. Dan Donacci openly comes out and talks about his relationship with Yerry Mina and how close they are. Obviously, he's left the football club now, Dan, but he spoke about how great of a human being Yerry Mina is. And I honestly don't believe there'd be one person at Everton who would turn around and have a bad word to say about Yerry Mina. And, you see in the video, when in the tunnel access videos, when he's not in the squad, he's still there in the tunnel, giving the players, encouragement and hugging them, and he's just genuinely seems like a lovely fella, and he's the epitome of positivity, Yerry Mina, and that losing that will have an effect on the dressing room. It simply will. You can replace his leadership maybe with James Tarkowski. You can replace his reliability or lack of reliability. You can replace maybe his quality as a centre-back, but personality is ridiculously difficult to replace, and it goes a long way, trust me, it goes a long, long way. I've worked in workplaces that have been full of absolute boring bastards, and it's horrible. It's horrible. You go in every day, your 8-hour day feels like 15 hours because everybody you're around is just boring and you just can't be arsed with them. And I've worked in workplaces where there's one or two people that you just know, even if you're not particularly close to, you just know, they're in today, so it'll be a laugh because they're funny, or you bounce off them, or they have a laugh, or even they're just a bit silly and they do things, and it just makes it so much more easier. So losing that will be drastic for Everton, and we've got to find a way to replace it. And I'm not saying just bring a player in because he's a laugh, or he's funny or whatever, or he's a good person to have around. But Everton should really adopt a no knobhead policy, and by that I mean every player we bring in, yes, they've got to suit the club. Yes, they've got to suit the identity of the football club, which is a complete other topic for another video. But they also should have to be a genuinely nice person. I'm sick of Everton signing players that you can just tell are absolute wankers because they just have a negative effect on everything. And there's certainly one that will leave this summer because his contract is expiring, who you just scratch your head and think why. So yeah, it will be a big miss. Yeah, he's a massive character, and as Ned quite rightly says, you need characters in your team. And I don't know James Tarkowski. I don't know him personally. I've never met him. I've never spoken to him. But whether or not he's as much of a character as we'll wait and see. Anyway, on to another couple of transfer rumours then, before we go on to Farhad Moshiri's statement. Yesterday, Matt Law of the Daily Telegraph, as we've just said, he spoke about the James Tarkowski transfer. He also reported that Tottenham midfielder Harry Winks is a potential target for Everton this summer, but would likely want to sign him on a season-long loan ahead of a permanent move. I'm not a massive fan of Harry Winks, if I'm being honest with you. I think he would be another midfielder that we'd bring in. He'd be bang average for a couple of years, and then we'd end up not being able to sell him because nobody wants him. Again, he's not physical. He's an okay passer of the ball. He's not a great passer of the ball. He's not athletic in any real sense. He's not quick in any real sense. He's another similar to Andre Gomez player for me. Tidy little footballer, but just not what we need. I'm not a massive fan. And I know people are bring his passing stats out or bring his dribbling stats out or say it's a loan. It's not that bad of a deal. And listen, on loan, if he's going to be a backup to the other two midfielders that we should be bringing in, then whatever. But let's be honest, if Harry Winks is to come to Everton, he will more than likely be starting every week, and that for me just isn't good enough. Do I believe this rumour? Listen, Matt Lord is again one that is well known and wouldn't put his neck on the line if he didn't believe that there was some truth in it. And it is a very sort of Everton rumour, isn't it? You know, Harry Winks is the type of player you would think Everton would be linked with. But it's the type of player that Everton would be linked with that just wouldn't really work. For me, it's Tom Cleverley, it's Theo Walcott, it's these type of players that you look at and you think, well, they've got a bit, but it's never really going to work, is it? And I think this is another one. The Mail Sport reported yesterday, pardon me, that Everton, Inter Milan, Newcastle, Napoli and West Ham are all interested in signing Chelsea forward Armando Broja. Obviously spent some time out on loan at Southampton last season, was it, I believe? I think if Broja was to come in, he would be coming in to replace one of Dominic Calvert-Lewin or Richarlison. And if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I don't think... In fact, let me rephrase. He's not as good as Dominic Calvert-Lewin or Richarlison. He's not as good of a goal scorer. He's not as reliable. He's a good player, and he's young, so he's got potential. He's physical. He can score goals. He's clever, but we can't really afford to be losing one of Dom or Richie and replacing them with a player that may or may not get to that level at some point in the future. We need instant impact in that area because, as we've just established, we don't score enough goals elsewhere on the pitch. But anyway, that's coming from the Mail, and there's about 400 teams interested in him, so Everton will be interested in a lot of players this summer that we won't end up signing. Luke Edwards at the Telegraph has stated that Newcastle are planning a move for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. However, Everton do not want to sell to a direct rival. Interesting. I personally can't see Dom going to Newcastle. I might be wrong. I just can't personally see that happening. I think if Dom was to leave, I think he'd want to leave to a team that, at least in Europe, and I know Newcastle have got ridiculous money, and some people are saying, oh, yeah, but they'll be able to pay him this, that, the other, and he'll be playing Champions League next year, and Newcastle won't be in Europe for about another 5-6 years, mark my words, simple as that. The rules don't allow them to do what they think they can do. So I just can't see Dom going there. I might be wrong, but I just can't see Dom going there. The Daily Mail also reported that Everton are interested in Tottenham winger Steven Bergwijn. The winger wants to leave Tottenham, and Spurs have had rejected a £17 million bid from Ajax. Again, I don't really see any interest in that. Would I have him at Everton? I don't think he's too bad of a player, to be honest. I think he's a good player. It's a lot of money, especially in our financial position, for the player that ultimately wasn't deemed good enough for the Premier League by Tottenham. But I can't see that happening. Tuto Makato also reported that Lazio were interested in signing Everton midfielder Alan. Sarri wishes to link up with the Brazilian again. However, Alan would have to push for the move to make it possible. And Simon Mullock at the Mirror has stated that Everton are in the fight to sign Christian Eriksen on a free transfer this summer. Man United and Tottenham are also interested. As we mentioned before with Christian Eriksen, I'm very much on the fence. If you're wondering why I'm not talking too much about the Alan deal, it's because I do think Alan will leave Everton this summer. I do. Thanks, Richo. Big thanks to Richo, who has become a member of the channel. Really, really do appreciate it, my mate. Thank you very much. I think Alan will leave Everton this summer. I do. Whether it's to Lazio, we'll wait and see. I think it's more than likely going to be to the Italian league, if I'm being honest with you. But again, whether it's to Lazio, I don't know. And whether there's anything in this transfer rumour, I don't know. In regards to the Christian Eriksen transfer, or rumour, I like Christian Eriksen. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he showed at Goodison Park a couple of weeks ago that he still very much has it. I think if the likes of Tottenham and Manchester United are interested, I don't think he will even give Everton a second thought. I actually can see him playing for Manchester United. I think he's got the look of a Manchester United player, and I think Manchester United will throw a ridiculous amount of money at him in order to make that deal happen. Almost a bit like a Juan Mata situation. But would I have him at Everton? I would, to be honest. I would. Would I want another centre midfielder? Yes, because we haven't got enough pace and power and athleticism around in our team at the moment to be able to accommodate somebody like a Christian Eriksen. But Christian Eriksen would replace that creativity that we haven't replaced since James Rodriguez and a certain other fella left the football club. We haven't replaced that creativity, and Christian Eriksen would replace that, which would be a massive boost. But how likely is that to happen? Not very, in my opinion. Not very likely. There's been another couple of rumours floating around. Again, players we've been linked with, transfers, here and there. John Joe Kenny, rumoured to be given a new 3-year contract, which just makes me want to be sick, if I'm being honest with you. And for everybody saying John Joe he's a great squad player and it's not a bad deal and it's this, that and the other, listen, by all means give John Joe Kenny a 1-year contract extension because he's a squad player and we need to figure out whether or not Nathan Patterson's going to be good enough to start week in, week out. Giving John Joe Kenny a 3-year deal is nothing short of fucking embarrassing, and I don't care what anybody says. I think I've said it on the channel last week. It's nothing short of embarrassing giving him a 3-year deal. We're making the same mistakes that we've made consistently over the last 4 or 5 years, and that's why we're in this situation. Give him a 1-year deal to see him through next season with Nathan Patterson getting into the team and Seamus Coleman phrasing out the team and having him there as backup for Mikalenko and being there to provide backup and support for right back as well, giving him a 3-year deal. And you can sit there all you like and say, well, it adds value to him. Cam, it means we'll be able to sell him. We could have sold him to Celtic last year. We could have sold him to Schalke year before. It's nonsense. He's not good enough to play for Everton, and he shouldn't be offered a 3-year deal. Whether or not he has been, those are the rumours. Whether or not he'll even sign it, again, is a different conversation. But I don't want to get too wound up on it, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. In other news, Farhad Moshiri has given us some communication. Fucking hell, wow, what, really, Cam? At 9:30 on a Wednesday night, Farhad Moshiri has decided to come out and communicate with us. He has, and you know what? I said this last time Farhad Moshiri released a statement, and I'll say it again. Regardless of what's in this statement and what I'm about to read, I think we have to appreciate that Farhad Moshiri has communicated with us. I'm not going to give him praise for it. I'm not going to sit here and say it's amazing. I'm not going to sit here and say he deserves credit for it, because this is exactly what he should be doing. He's only doing what he should be doing. But the reality is he hasn't been doing this. So I think we can acknowledge and understand that, him doing this is an improvement on what we previously had. Anyway, let's have a little read through the statement and see what it says. We can say the Icelandic fella's name, we just can't talk about the investigation. I know, but it's just funnier if we say the other fella, isn't it? We all know who I'm referring to. We all know who I'm talking about, don't we, basic? But I just think it's quite funny if we refer to him as the other fella rather than say his name. Don't get me wrong, the situation isn't funny whatsoever. What happened isn't funny. But yeah, it's just, listen, I can't be arsed being caught up in no drama, if I'm being honest with you. I can't be arsed being caught up in no drama. Anyway, on to Mr. Moshiri. So he has said this evening, "Dear Evertonians, Whilst there is no denying that it was an amazing night when we turned around a 2-0 home... let me start again. Dear Evertonians, whilst there is no denying that it was an amazing night when we turned around a 2-0 half-time deficit to secure a sensational victory and guarantee a 69th successive season in the top tier of English football last season. This is me interjecting, by the way. It was that good of a night that he couldn't be arsed turning up for it. Anyway, back to the statement. It should not be allowed to disguise the fact that we have underperformed in what proved to be a very challenging campaign. Mistakes have been made, and for that I want to apologise to all of you. It has not been good enough and we need to do better. You have given us incredible support that helped us over the line when we most needed it, and we must repay that support and show that lessons have been learned. More than any other club in England, Everton is the club of its people, its community, its fans, and it always will be. I am committed to securing the future success of the club by delivering a fully funded stadium that will underpin our status as a leading club. Our new stadium project at Bramley-Moore Dock has reached an exciting and landmark stage as it emerges from the ground with the 4 main cores now in place. Of course, the stadium alone will not help us achieve our objectives, and we are committed to not making the same mistakes again, including how we have not always spent significant amounts of money wisely. Good point. Addressing the fact that we've wasted money far too often in the past. Fair enough. During the 2021-2022 season, the board led a strategic review of our operations, which included looking at working practices, our recruitment process, and the whole structure of our footballing operation in order to clearly identify the causes of our under-delivery on the pitch. Many of the learnings have already been implemented. The recruitment of Frank Lampard as our manager is one example. He was the outstanding candidate at the end of a robust and clearly defined process, demonstrating an ability to marry his technical skills with passion, intelligence, humility, and in alignment with the values of the club. Again, good point. Other appointments such as Kevin Thelwell, our new director of football, Everton women manager Brian Sorensen, coach educator Kevin Nicholson, the development of a technical board, and the search for both a new academy director and under-23s head coach also reflect the implementation of findings from the strategic review. He then went on to say, finally, we cannot forget the ongoing atrocity occurring every day in Ukraine. The response of the fans, the players and management, and their support for Vitaly Mikhailenko, his country, and people who are still suffering because of this inhumane assault has been heartfelt and truly amazing. The club has already made an important contribution to the Disaster Emergency Committee's Ukraine humanitarian appeal, and I can confirm that we have offered a friendly match at Goodison Park to Dynamo Kiev to raise additional funds to support the Ukrainians. Details of this will be made available soon. Thank you for everything you did to support your club so brilliantly during a challenging season. You did not deserve the frustration and fear that the season brought. Your incredible support is never taken for granted, and together we move forward. Farhad Moshiri. Now, that is a statement that would be read in many a different way, and I think that different Evertonians will read it differently. Some will read it as just empty words, and basically just another statement which involves a lot of words that ultimately mean nothing if things aren't put into place. Some will read it and think, you know what, that's quite heartfelt. It's understanding, and it's for the first time I think in a while, Farhad Moshiri, maybe even ever, Farhad Moshiri is taking accountability. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of parts of that statement that are very much just what you would expect to hear. It's not being a great season, your support's being great, etc., etc. There's a lot of things within that statement that you sort of just you just go, yeah, expected. But there's a couple of things in there that stand out. I think the acknowledgement of Frank Lampard being a manager who tactically fits the football club, but also with his desire and his passion, is important, because again, this is something that Farhad Moshiri has not always done in the past, namely and more recently with the manager that Frank Lampard succeeded. So for Frank to come out and say for Moshiri to come out and say the process was about bringing in a manager that tactically suits the football club and is good enough, but also understands the club, understands the fans, and fits with the values, is important, because that's something that he hasn't done in the past, i.e. Ronald Koeman, i.e. Sam Allardyce, i.e. Rafael Benitez. And also the acknowledgement that we've wasted a ridiculous amount of money. Now, as I said, this statement doesn't make me think, oh, he's sound now. Farhad, he's boss, he's sound, he gets away with everything, he's boss, he's brilliant. Doesn't make me think that, because I still haven't forgot that 4 months ago, Farhad Moshiri used one of our only 2 available loan deals in a position, in a situation in which we were fighting relegation and needed to strengthen in as many ways as possible. He used one of those on a player that spent less time on the pitch at Goodison than me, and a player that should never have been brought into Everton. So I haven't forgotten all of the bad things and all of the issues, and I still think Farhad Moshiri has got a lot to prove, and he can say all of this. We've wasted loads of money. We've brought in a manager that fits the values of the football club, this, that and the other. But now we've got to see that we won't make those mistakes again. Now we've got to see that in the future, if Frank Lampard is to leave the football club in whatever capacity, we don't then bring in a manager and then try and change our football club to suit said manager. We bring in a manager that suits this football club. We start getting some values again. We start getting an identity again. And we start really zoning in on what Everton Football Club is. And we've seen a lot of that over the last few weeks with the greeting of the coach and fans taking it under our, taking it into our own hands to make a difference and to, effectively force these players to make a difference. And the players have shown that as well. We've got to really zone in on that now. And as I said, we've got to get back to being Everton Football Club, a football club that we all know what we are, what we stand for, what we believe in. And the football club can match that as well. And that means that if we bring in a manager, or a manager's sacked and we need to bring in a new one, we don't bring in a manager and completely change our philosophy, our identity and our way of working to suit said manager. We bring in a manager that is willing to suit our identity. We bring in players that suit Everton Football Club. We don't bring in players and then change what we are to suit them, because that is what we've done over the last 5 or 6 years and it hasn't worked. So, as I said, it's an impressive statement to the point where you're looking and you're thinking, do you know what? A couple of things I said. As I said, the acknowledgement of us wasting a lot of money is the first time Farhad Moshiri has effectively acknowledged that his ownership hasn't been good enough. And the acknowledgement of Frank Lampard being a manager who suits the football club, it again is an acknowledgement that, yeah, I've not I've got it right, but previously I've not really looked into that, whereas now I understand that we need to bring in a manager that understands Everton and understands what you as fans want. Obviously the stuff about Ukraine is fantastic and is right. Everton have obviously been leaders in terms of football clubs in the support of Ukraine and Vitaly Mikhailenko and stuff like that, and the offer for Dynamo Kiev to come over and play a friendly is great, and if that happens then that'll be absolutely fantastic as well, and I'm sure there will be a lot of Evertonians going to watch that game. But as I said, that's something that we'll have to wait and see on in the future. But yeah, what did you think about it? Because I'm getting ripped to bits here. Brian says, Cam, is it true you stole Clark Kent? I am Clark Kent, mate. I am Clark Kent. Whammy said something about, or was it Semi said something about a bunk bed. I've got a double bunk bed, and what? It's great. It's a double bed. It's above a couch. I've got a settee, and then I've got a double bed in a room that isn't very big. So I've got the option of sitting in a living room or a bedroom. I am Clark Kent to address other rumours, and I've now got a green screen. And we don't have technical difficulties anymore because I bought a new computer. Are we happy? We're happy. But yeah, let us know your thoughts on the Farhad Moshiri thing, because, as I said, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter saying it's typical nonsense. Okay, you've come out and you've communicated, but it's just empty words. And I've seen a lot of people say, cut him some slack. There's certain bits in that statement that are ultimately the owner coming out and acknowledging that it hasn't been good enough, and not just acknowledging that it hasn't been good enough and saying, yeah, it's not been good enough, we've been shite, but I don't know why. He's come out there and said, it's not been good enough, and I've wasted ridiculous amounts of money. So hopefully that changes. Now, am I confident it will change? Absolutely not. Because, as I said, 3 months ago, we made another dreadful, dreadful decision. That just baffles me. And if I'm being honest, I don't think he can help himself. But, yeah, it's positive. It's communication, which is what we all wanted, which is what we deserve as fans, especially after what we've just been put through. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts on it. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know. Everton boy says, winning in life can when you get in the Prada glasses. Or not for me, mate. Not for me. When we get to 10,000 subscribers, I might get myself a nice designer pair. I'm actually sunburned at the moment. Not that it's got anything to do with having glasses, but I played footy the other day and I've managed to catch a sunburn, which is always great. I feel bad now, Cam. Thanks. Don't feel bad, mate. I'm easy. If anybody follows me on TikTok, I put a TikTok up yesterday about a certain very rich man, and a lot of his fans decided to come and basically abuse me. So yeah, don't feel bad about that, because I've been called every name under the sun over the last 24 hours, but it was hilarious. The DC Scout Tender universe is canon. I am. If I was a superhero, who would I be? I'm gonna throw that to you now. If I was a superhero, who would I be? Do you still have the JD bag? Says basic. I do, mate. Jack the lad says he's clearly got something in plan. Was a positive statement. He stated many learnings have already been implemented. He did, and listen, we'll see in due course if those learnings make any difference or not. I'm not holding my breath, but we'll wait and see. Superman moved from Metropolis to Gotham Pool, says Wonderlust. Ned says not sleeping in a room with you. Coffin. I'm sleeping in your bath before USA, mate. What? You weren't sleeping in a room with me anyway? For context, Ned's staying in my house the night before we go to America because we're leaving extremely early. I can't be arsed with this typical, I'll be there at 5, mate, and then 25 past 5. Oh, I've just left ours, lad. So I've said he can stay in ours, but the plan was never to stay in the same bed, mate. That was never the plan. By all means, you can stay in the bath, but I've literally got a spare bedroom. He says Steve Rogers before the steroids. Are you talking about Steve Rogers from American Dad? You're a top lad and we love you, says Brian. Nice one, mate. Jack the lad says new stadium on the way. Who's that down to? Farhad. Let's give Goodison the send off it deserves. Well, I think it's down to a number of factors. But you are right about Goodison. Batman's in the right place, says Wonderlust. Love you, bud, says Brian. Nice one, mate. Love you too. Dave says made up. He's come out and put his hands up and recognised the fans' input. Hopefully our turning point. Let's hope so, mate. Let's hope so. Don't want to hear about Kia Jam again, says Basic. Yeah, me too. Brian says my mate who's a Rovers fan keeps saying Unsworth to Blackburn and Breton Diaz to Everton. I'd take Breton Diaz. Whether Unsworth will go to Blackburn, I don't know. Do you like Dele Alli, says Barry? I do. Do I think he'll be an Everton player next summer? I don't. Sorry, next season. I don't. Yeah. Anyway, look, we're going to finish it there then. Because, yeah, why not? I think it's a good way to finish. Massive thank you to everybody for watching live. Over 160 people watching currently. If you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. That would mean a massive amount to me as well. We are zoning in on 7,000 subscribers. We're still a little bit away, but we're getting there. So if you could hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, it would help us massively. We will be back over the next couple of days, probably after I get back from London, and we'll do a season review stream where we basically just talk for an hour about the season and get it over and done with. And then we'll obviously have all of the transfer rumours videos and talk a little bit more about Everton, our identity, what we are, what we need to be, what we need going forward, all of that sort of stuff as well. But massive thank you to everybody for watching. If you've watched live, big thank you. Really do appreciate it. If you watched as a YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below and we'll try and get involved with as many of them as we can as well. Let us know your thoughts on everything we spoke about as well. Massive thank you for watching. And yeah, we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues. Cheers for watching. See you after.